Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.
We're so pleased to have back on the show an incredible country music singer, songwriter, actor. He does it all. He also did comedy, and I think he should do more. Charles Esten, or Chip, as we like to call him.
Thank you.
Good to have you back on the show.
Great to be back. It's been a minute, for sure.
Well, congratulations on this new album.
Oh, thank you so
Love
much.
Ain't Pretty.
Yeah, that's it. That's true. Once you hear the song, I mean, love ain't pretty and life is hard, but ultimately they're beautiful. So that's what it's about.
You know, you took your time doing this album, Chip, and I got to tell you, listening to the songs and watching the music videos, there's a lot of depth here. I mean, you know, you really doubled down, and also it didn't hurt that you had Marshall Altman as your producer, and a couple okay musicians in studio.
It's been unbelievable to finally find the guy, and I got introduced to Marshall by my friend Ree, who's my publisher.
Right.
And once we met, we just started talking about things, and immediately I could tell there was a simpatico. And then he listened to so many of my songs. I had so much material. And the things he was saying and the way he was hearing them and seeing them immediately clicked with me. So we did a whole lot of pre-production just to get to know the songs before we went into the studio with the musicians we would end up with. And that meant by the time we got into the studio, we were just both experts in these songs, so we were able to bring across to them. And when I say them, I am talking about the most incredible band. I was noticing just, not yesterday, but the day before, 3 of the players on my album, 3 of the 5 are were nominated for ACM Awards.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's absolutely
on your
incredible.
album.
Yeah, my friend Saul, Phil Cox Littlefield, and Fred Eltringham on drums, and Tony Lucido on bass. And that's the caliber of players that he brought in on this. And that's one thing, because you can have the best players, but what was so beautiful was how quickly I felt like I could feel them buy into the album, buy into these songs, so that very quickly it didn't feel like it was my album and they were just hired guns to play on it. It felt like our album. That was huge for me.
Well, you know, I got to bring up also that you had your buddy Eric Paslay involved on Down the Road.
Well, Eric actually wrote 2 of the songs with me, Candlelight.
Love Candlelight.
Oh, thank you so much. We wrote that one together with Big Kenny Alphin from Big and Rich.
Nice.
All 3 of us, as they say, outkicked their coverage, married above their weight class, all those things. We both have these, all 3 of us have these incredible wives, and so we wanted to know what would be a good metaphor for that, and Candlelight's what we came up
I thought that was so good, because when you listen to the lyrics of the song, you know, comparing, you know, your wives to a candle and lighting up the room and everything. You and I were talking about that before we came in studio. The depth of the lyrics, and, you know, 14 songs, you know, and you co-wrote, you know, with the writers and everything on all of these, a lot of depth. I mean, how many songs did you walk into the studio with?
Oh, man, we ended up with 14. I know I went in there with more than 50. Yeah, I've been writing a lot. I love writing in this town, and especially when you get to write with people like Eric and Kenny, and yeah, that, and then also Eric and I wrote with Dylan Altman. We wrote Down the Road, so he had written on it, and he and I had played that out a number of times, not only at different charity events or writers' rounds, but even at the Grand Ole Opry. I had called him up a couple times, said, "I'm going to sing Down the Road. Will you come do that high harmony for me?"
Wow.
So when we went into the studio, I didn't know I was going to do that. I thought I'll handle it on the record, but when we were done with it and I heard my harmony, I go, I miss my buddy Eric. I miss his voice. He has one of the great voices in Nashville.
Incredible.
So we were in the studio and we called him, and he said, absolutely, man. Well, let's schedule something. So we had out Marshall's calendar and mine, and he was on the phone, and we kept trying. What about this date? What about that date? We kept looking for, and now it's getting way off, and we're like, I don't know if we're still going to be doing it then. And finally he goes, well, where are you guys right now? And we said, we're in Berry Hill, and we gave him our address, and he goes, I'm 4 minutes away from you. so he suddenly hears this knock at the door. He walks in, he goes into the booth, and he lays down this harmony that just lifts the whole song.
Well, you know, and once again, you know, you're so well known, besides for your singing, songwriting, and this incredible album, but, you know, with Outer Banks and also with Nashville. And then I have to bring up, because you won't, your charity work. Because I know recently, you know, you played the analog for Musicians on Call.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Musicians on Call, as you know, is a fantastic organization that their mission is to get music into the places where it's needed most. And where it's needed most, hospital rooms.
Definitely.
And right beside these hospital beds, whether it's a children's hospital or a veterans hospital or just a standard hospital or even hospice centers, these are folks that are fighting their own battle every day. It's very much like a USO show, except they're soldiers in their own battle. And so Musicians on Call gets musicians to go visit these hospitals. And I have sat beside these folks next to their hospital beds, and in that moment you go, oh, this is why I learned how to play guitar, this moment right here. So it's incredibly moving. And this particular night at the Analog at the Hutton, I brought two of my friends over to do a writer's round for only for the healthcare workers, just to bless them. So it was fantastic with Lauren, Elena, and my friend Matt from Old Dominion. And it was just really special because these are the people that, there where the rubber hits the road and helping us all feel better. So we were able to say thank you to them. One cool thing about that also is that the Analog is a gorgeous little venue in the Hutton. The Hutton is Midtown Nashville.
Right.
And the Hutton is actually where in 2012, when they brought us all to town to shoot the pilot of a TV show called Nashville, they put us up at the Hutton. So I have great, great memories of that, and I'm just so grateful to Lauren Elaine and Matt Ramsey for coming along and helping.
Well, you know, and it feels like to me, certainly, you know, knowing your career from early on, you know, even back to like Whose Line Is It Anyway, and what you've done with the TV shows and everything else you've been involved with now, it's almost like that's supporting your music now. Because, you know, because you're doing all these tours, I mean, international tours. You've played the Opry over 170 times.
Yeah, I still can't wrap my head around that. That's a Deacon thing. That's the power of Nashville and what it opened up for me. I've been playing music my whole life, been writing music my whole life.
Right.
I was in a band in college.
Nespa.
Yeah.
And so you're thinking about putting them back together?
Well, I tell you what, the last two homecomings we played at the homecomings, and they were two of the funnest gigs that we ever played. So I still love all those guys dearly. But when I was graduating, they were going on to be doctors and lawyers and such, as the song said. And I didn't have another band, so I thought maybe I'll go to LA and be an actor. And I bet I'll run into a bass player and a drummer and a guitar. I never did, but I did get to go be an actor. And that acting took me to Nashville eventually, and here I am. So it opened it all wide again for me. And it's kind of the most full circle thing I can imagine, and all I am is grateful.
Well, and I'll tell you what, I was going to bring up also with all your work with the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and you're the ambassador for that, and you and I have worked together on that for several years, and you're just so tied into the community here.
Well, that's for a real reason. It was my friend Pete Fisher at the Grand Ole Opry when I first started playing the Opry. Right after Deacon played it, I got to play it, and he came up to me because he knew our story, and our story is that my wife and I, when our youngest daughter, when she was 2.5 years old, was diagnosed with leukemia. This is back when we were in Los Angeles. Right. And that was a long 2-year road of chemotherapy for our little girl, and of course, a whole lot of prayer and a whole lot of family involved. And now she is absolutely healthy, happy, strong. She's she played soccer for 5 years in college. She got her 1-year master's, and she's now out there in the world doing business. Wow. So we know that didn't come from nothing. That came from research, and that research came from fundraising. Right. So it's been our life's mission to give back to those people that gave us our daughter. And
so incredible.
So that's what we do, and it's an incredible event, Light the Night, and it comes up in the fall, and no matter what city you're in, if you check out on the lightthenight.org or LLS.org, you will find there's a Light the Night walk near you. So that's been our goal, to help them as much as we can. Such great work. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and I got to bring up also, you know, there's a little thing called CMA Fest coming to Nashville.
Oh, yeah.
And I understand that you're already on a sold-out stage.
Yeah.
You know,
well, first of all,
but also you're playing Franklin.
You please tell the people the power of the CMA Fest. And if you are a country music fan at all, and if you've not been to CMA Fest, please come to Nashville and dig in. You will see anybody you've ever wanted to see, whether it's as big a venue as Nissan Stadium, or all the way down to the smallest venues. You will see some of your greatest songwriters and artists. And I got very fortunate. I got asked to be part of a show at the Esten Amphitheater, that gorgeous venue, where
with your friend.
It's Tracy Lawrence and friends, and I'm fortunate to get to call myself a Tracy Lawrence friend. And that is already sold out right there at the amphitheater, and I can't wait for that.
But the Franklin show isn't sold out.
Yeah, I have my own show that week, and that's June 7th. I'll be at the beautiful Franklin Theater.
I love that venue.
Oh, me too. That's why I got such a great relationship with them. I love them, and they made it real nice for me for so long. One other funny thing about the Esten Amphitheater, though, when we first started shooting Nashville, that was just a green hill. There was nothing there. It was just grass. And one of the very first scenes takes place right on that green grass. Wow. And it was the guy that played the then mayor at the time saying, I think we should build a ballpark here.
I'm going to have to go back and watch that
You
now.
watch it. They did not build a ballpark
Well, you know,
there.
and also,
They
you know,
built
it's
the
been pretty
Esten
handy
Amphitheater.
for you because I know, you know, some of our viewers may not realize that, you know, you did Broadway, you know, as Buddy Holly, but it seems like on everything that you do, you end up with a guitar. And you've also ended up with Deacon's guitar. So, you know, on the cover of the album.
You're throwing me under the bus. It's true. It wasn't on Broadway. I was in the West End. I have yet to make my Broadway debut, but I was in London.
Buddy Holly.
And I played Buddy Holly.
In London.
And yeah, and my electric Stratocaster I have now, it was the one that I played on that show. In fact, I have the microphone too. As I was taking my final bow like this, I bowed and then the curtain went down. I'm super emotional. I turned to go and I went, squeaky, squeaky, squeaky. So I left at that. And then when I did Nashville, I played a guy named Deacon Claiborne, and there's a guitar that I used almost every episode, and I just by then had felt like
that Danny found for you.
Yeah, Danny Rowe, my buddy Danny Rowe, and so they said I could keep that as well. And the other thing I got to keep was the puppy from the show.
Right.
And that puppy is now our boy Blue. He's almost 12 years old now. I can't even believe it.
And with puppies, and you have 2 of those puppies.
Yeah, because that puppy. My Blue, eventually, we had a neighbor, and the 2 of them got together, their neighbor dog, and they had a beautiful litter of 6 other yellow labs.
Wow.
We got one, he's Ryman, at the Ryman Auditorium, and my son got one, he's Rocky, because my son lived in the Rockies at the time. And,
how great is that?
And then the other 4 were claimed real quickly by their friends.
You know, and I couldn't help but notice last year, too, in your spare time, between writing hit songs, doing an album, being on TV shows, being an ambassador for charities, somebody was in People magazine for Sexiest Man Alive also in 2023. Was that you? It looked a lot like you.
Yeah, keep the cameras at a distance.
You were in, I mean, that was you.
That was incredibly kind. It wasn't until I played this guy named Ward Cameron, who was kind of a bad guy. I don't know, maybe it was the bad boy thing, but yeah, that was a shock and an honor. So,
and you've been on other covers too. I mean, you know, some other magazines recently. So it's like, I kind of feel like you're everywhere.
Well, I try not to be too much in your face. I lay low for a little bit sometimes, but now I got this album I want to talk about. So I'll go anywhere I can to talk about
and I told you this before too, and even before we came in studio, what a great album. I mean, all 14 songs. I mean, you've got the country feel, you've got kind of the rockin' feel in there, you've got a little bit of bluegrass with some of the mandolin and everything. It's really, there's like a song for everyone. But you know, Love Ain't Pretty, but also it feels like love songs also. You know what I mean? It's almost like, you know, rhetorical.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's so many love songs, but from different angles. It's talking about how, I mean, love can leave you on your knees, it can break your heart, but then it can lift you to the highest height. So that sort of strange aspect, how binary it can be, goes throughout the album. And then it's also, you know, just I Want to Make You Happy. That song that's
oh my gosh, what a great video.
That's part of, oh, thank you very much.
Which also premiered on CMT.
Yeah, and then they got to they played it in Times Square. So we happened to be up there doing some press, and I got to go with my wife down to Times Square because my wife Patty is in the video. Right. She's the one that I want to make happy. And there she is up on that big screen, and I was laughing at it because I remember back when MTV was starting out, I always wanted to be married to one of them video girls, you know. After all this time.
And now you have
We made it happen.
Yeah, even back from the college days.
It was just so fun. It's such a silly video, and the 2 of us having a good time on it. And so to be there and watching it with her, she never gets the spotlight. She's always pointing it at me. So to have her up there in Times Square was huge.
Well, I'll tell you what, I know there's more videos coming out, the singles and everything, the album's doing well. I mean, I think 21 million streams or something already. And so it's really catching on fire. I was on your Spotify list just listening to the entire album.
Oh, thank you.
So what a great, and you know, I think the only thing that's missing is vinyl. Maybe you should consider vinyl. Maybe you need to talk to
I'm definitely considering, I gotta say, because that's what I loved growing up with. You know, when I hear the word album, we haven't announced it yet. Believe me, if we do, it's gonna be nice. We're gonna make it nice. We'll open it
and
up.
it might be nice at CMA Fest or, you know, something like that, or at the Franklin Theater.
I ain't my new manager, everybody. These are some good ideas.
Well, I want to make sure for our viewers, Chip, where they need to go for everything Charles Esten with the venues you're doing, the shows, the tours, everything that you're doing for TV and with this great album.
Well, thank you so much. I
Where should
really
they
do
go?
appreciate it. Well, first of all, I guess charlesesten.com, ESTEN.com, and then all those socials, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or even the TikTok. I love this album so much that I got on the TikTok and I'm putting those up occasionally. And there's an email list as well. So there's just this great. I am very, very blessed with an incredible group of fans. Like when I had my premiere for the album, we did it at the Exit Inn right down here in town.
Love that venue.
And somewhere during the show, a gentleman was not feeling well and sort of fell out and went down to the ground. And we stopped the show. And he is absolutely fine, and he was all right, just got a little overheated. But just watching how the people that you draw, it means a lot to me that I tend to draw some of the best people in the world. And that makes me feel very happy. I think so, yeah.
And for your work, on TV shows, but also for your albums, and especially at the Opry, because the Opry loves you. And so I know you're always going back and playing the Opry again and bringing in some of your friends. Plus now the Franklin Theater.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Well, be sure, go to the website, follow Charles on social media and everything else, but be sure and add this entire album, Love Ain't Pretty, to your playlist, however you consume music. I'm hoping vinyl comes out. There might be some cool merch coming out too. Just throwing out some ideas there. But go see him live. You want to see Chip live in concert. Incredible band, incredible songs. Thanks for coming back on the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of a Bobby Bones Show.